The bus pulled into the station at exactly 11:47 p.m., right on schedule. Every single passenger stepped off into the cold Nevada night, collected their bags, and walked away into their separate lives. But when officials reviewed the manifest the next morning, they discovered something impossible. One passenger had boarded in Los Angeles. His ticket had been scanned. His seat had been occupied for 6 hours, yet he never arrived in Reno. Marcus Chun had vanished somewhere between 2 points on a straight highway, and no one on that bus could remember seeing him leave. Marcus Chun was 28 years old, a software engineer living in downtown Los Angeles. He worked for a mid-sized tech company, paid his bills on time, and called his mother in Sacramento every Sunday without fail. His coworkers described him as quiet but friendly, the kind of person who remembered birthdays and always held the elevator door. He had no enemies, no debts, and no reason to disappear. His life was ordinary in every measurable way, which made what happened next even more disturbing. On the evening of March 14th, Marcus purchased a one-way bus ticket to Reno. His mother had fallen ill the week before, nothing life-threatening, but enough to worry him. He planned to spend a few days helping her around the house before returning to work the following Monday. He texted his roommate at 5:15 p.m., saying he would be gone for the weekend. He texted his mother at 5:30 p.m., telling her he would arrive around midnight. These were the last messages anyone ever received from Marcus Chun. The bus departed Los Angeles at 5:45 p.m. with 43 passengers aboard. Marcus sat in seat 17B, a window seat near the middle of the vehicle. The driver, a veteran named Ronald Hayes, remembered scanning his ticket and nodding at him. Ronald had driven this route for 11 years and never experienced anything unusual. That night would change everything he thought he understood about his job. The journey proceeded normally through Bakersfield and into the high desert. Passengers slept, read books, or stared at their phones in the dim glow of the cabin lights. The bus made its scheduled stop in Mojave at 8:30 p.m., where several passengers got off to use the restroom and buy snacks. Security footage from the gas station would later confirm that Marcus did not exit the bus during this stop. His figure remained visible through the tinted windows, sitting motionless in his seat. The bus continued north through the darkness, passing through small towns and stretches of empty highway. At 10:15 p.m., a passenger named Diana Foster walked to the back restroom and passed directly by seat 17B. She would later tell investigators that she saw a man sitting there wearing a gray hoodie and looking out the window. She did not see his face clearly, but she remembered the hoodie because her son owned the same one. This was the last confirmed sighting of Marcus Chun alive. When the bus arrived in Reno, at 11:47 p.m., Ronald Hayes stepped outside to help passengers retrieve their luggage from the storage compartment below. He watched every single person exit through the front door, counting them as they passed. His count matched the manifest exactly. 43 passengers had boarded in Los Angeles, and 43 passengers had departed in Reno. But Marcus Chun was not among them, even though his seat showed clear signs of recent occupation. The discovery came the following morning when Marcus failed to arrive at his mother's house. She called his phone repeatedly, but it went straight to voicemail. By noon, she contacted the Los Angeles Police Department, who initially treated the case as a routine missing persons report. Everything changed when they reviewed the bus company's records. Marcus had boarded, his ticket had been used, but he never claimed his luggage in Reno. His suitcase sat unclaimed in the station for 3 days before anyone connected it to the growing investigation. Investigators began interviewing every passenger who had traveled on that bus. Their testimonies created a deeply unsettling picture. Many passengers remembered seeing someone in seat 17B during various parts of the journey. Some described him as sleeping. Others said he was looking at his phone, and a few insisted the seat was empty for portions of the trip. The conflicting accounts made no logical sense. Either Marcus had been on that bus for the entire journey, or he had somehow left without anyone noticing. The bus itself was examined with forensic precision. Technicians found Marcus's fingerprints on the window beside seat 17B and traces of his DNA on the headrest. His phone, however, was never recovered. Cell tower records showed that his device had been active until approximately 9:45 p.m., pinging towers along the expected route. Then it simply stopped transmitting. The last recorded location placed him somewhere in a remote stretch of highway between Mojave and the Nevada border. Miles from any town or landmark, this discovery prompted a massive search of the surrounding desert. Helicopters flew grid patterns over the barren landscape, while ground teams walked through rocky terrain for nearly 2 weeks. They found nothing. No clothing, no personal items, no signs of struggle or disturbance. The desert had swallowed any trace of Marcus Chun, leaving investigators with more questions than answers. The case began appearing on local news stations, and soon, national media picked up the story of the man who vanished from a moving bus. Then, 6 weeks after the disappearance, a hiker discovered something that would crack the case wide open. Hidden behind a cluster of rocks approximately 3 miles from Highway 395, she found a gray hoodie folded neatly on top of a flat stone. Inside the pocket was a handwritten note containing only 6 words and a set of coordinates. The note read simply, "I had to see it myself." The discovery sent shockwaves through the investigation team, and within hours, a full tactical unit was dispatched to follow the mysterious coordinates. The coordinates led investigators to an abandoned mining facility that had been closed since the 1970s. The buildings were crumbling and dangerous, covered in warnings and faded government signs. Deep within the main structure, they found evidence of recent human activity. Food wrappers, water bottles, and a sleeping bag suggested someone had been living there. Most disturbing was the wall covered in photographs, newspaper clippings, and handwritten notes. The subject of this obsessive collection was a single event from 30 years earlier. In 1994, a bus traveling the same route had experienced a mechanical failure in nearly the exact same location. The driver had lost control, and the vehicle had rolled down an embankment into a ravine. 17 passengers died in the accident, including a 6-year-old boy named Michael Chun. Michael was Marcus's older brother, a brother he had never known, a brother his parents had never spoken about. The family had buried their grief so deeply that Marcus grew up believing he was an only child. His entire childhood had been constructed on a foundation of silence and hidden sorrow. Further investigation revealed that Marcus had accidentally discovered the truth 3 months before his disappearance. While helping his mother organize old documents, he had found a death certificate hidden in a locked box. The revelation had shattered his understanding of his entire life. His parents had kept this devastating secret for 30 years, and Marcus had become consumed with understanding what really happened to the brother he never knew. He stopped socializing with friends and became withdrawn at work, though no one understood why at the time. His internet search history showed weeks of research into the accident. He had contacted survivors, read old newspaper articles, and studied maps of the crash site. He had discovered that the mining facility overlooked the exact ravine where the bus had fallen. He had planned this journey not to visit his mother, but to finally see the place where his brother had died. Every detail of his trip had been carefully orchestrated to bring him to this remote and forgotten location. The evidence suggested that Marcus had quietly exited the bus during a brief unscheduled stop when the driver pulled over to check a warning light. In the darkness and confusion, no one had noticed him slip away into the desert. He had walked 3 miles to the facility, where he had set up his memorial and processing space. But something had gone wrong during his time there. The old structure was far more dangerous than he had anticipated. Deeper in the mining tunnels, rescue teams eventually found Marcus Chun. He had fallen through a rotted wooden floor into a lower chamber, breaking his leg in the descent. Unable to climb out, and without cell service, he had survived for nearly a week before succumbing to dehydration. Beside his body was a journal containing his final thoughts, addressed to the brother who had died before Marcus was even born. The pages were worn and stained with dust from the collapsed tunnel. The pages described his grief, his anger at his parents for hiding the truth, and finally, his acceptance and peace. The last entry expressed no regret for his journey. He wrote that he finally understood why his mother had always seemed so sad, even on happy occasions. He wrote that he forgave his parents for trying to protect him from pain. He wrote that he was ready to meet Michael, wherever he might be. His final words were simple yet profound, filled with love and longing for connection. The Chun family buried Marcus beside his brother in a small cemetery outside Sacramento. The service was private, attended only by close relatives and a few friends who understood the tragic connection between 2 deaths separated by 3 decades. His mother spoke briefly, her voice breaking as she described losing both sons to the same stretch of highway. The bus driver, Ronald Hayes, retired 6 months later. He said he could no longer pass that stretch of highway without thinking about the young man who had slipped away into the darkness, searching for a ghost. Some journeys, he realized, have destinations that cannot be found on any map. Marcus Toon boarded that bus seeking answers about his past. He found them in the most permanent way possible. The highway still stretches through that empty desert, carrying passengers who will never know what secrets the surrounding darkness holds. Some questions should never be answered alone.